Danzig.
And I'm Hannah Hampton, and you're listening to HR After Hours.
Hello and welcome to HR After Hours podcast, the only HR podcast that still visits its pediatrician as its primary physician. I mean, come on. He knows my medical history and gives out great lollipops. Hannah Hampton, my sister from another Mr. H squared. We've got the giggle bots today. How the hell are you?
This is how it's going to be today, huh? We're going to be laughing the whole time. I'm well. I am swell. How are you?
Farmer Mick Danzig, I'm outstanding in my field. Thanks for asking.
Always.
And let's jump right in. We're going to keep today's episode relatively short and sweet. It's that holiday season. People have shopping to do. My dog needs to visit Santa. We were kicking around what our theme was today. This is off of, it's called Shepherd Express, week of the 15th something. Yep. News of the Weird, week of December 15th. And it says, an Olive Garden restaurant manager in Overland Park, Kansas, is out of a job after they sent a ranting message to team members about excessive time off. KCTV5 reported, we are no longer tolerating any excuse for calling off, ... If your dog died, you need to bring him in and prove it to us. If you only want morning shifts, too bad. Go work at a bank, ... Do you think I want to be here until midnight and Friday and Saturdays? No, I'd much rather be at home with my husband and my dog, the message said. Needless to say.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yep.
An Olive Garden representative said the message was, quote unquote, not aligned with our company's values. We can confirm we have parted ways with this manager. So, I mean, it's funny and it's not. I mean, really, obviously, this person had a breaking point. They hit it, exceeded it, and then left it in the dust to finally break down and do this rant. So obviously they weren't in the best of places. We laugh, we jest, but then we feel for them a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is just another example of bad management, bad leadership, the lack of support, not thinking before.
Well, no wonder. I mean, well, here's the thing. I feel like, of course, like the person lost their job. Yes, and the person kind of clearly it got to their wit's end. Clearly, they were not, before this, they weren't creating a great work environment, or else people wouldn't be calling out and doing all the things that frustrated this person. Like, you and I have both worked in HR in the restaurant world and understand there are stores where people show up, they don't off, and it's a respectful, great work environment. And then there's the stores that have consistent trouble, and a lot of time it starts at the top with poor leadership and allowing bad behaviors. And so it's like, yes, I feel bad that this person snapped, but I also feel like, well, what led up to it? And I'm sure that was not the first time that this manager acted like a total prick.
So I believe in trying to create a learning experience from all of these types of mishaps. But here's really what it comes down to.
We don't know what happened that led up.
We don't know what happened, what the lead up was. But if we're going to create anything out of this, right? So we didn't just bring it up to laugh at someone else's misfortune.
No.
So what we're going to add is the fact that, seriously, what can you learn from this? Well, the one thing that if no one has ever told any of our listeners throughout their career is, my goodness, not only do you count to 1,000, but then you bounce what you want to put in an email off of people before you dare put something in print. They have not been mentored throughout their career or given good advice, because no one with an ounce of business courtesy and acumen and development would ever put in writing, if your dog died, you need to bring him in and prove it to us. I mean, to me, all I can think of. Ferris Bueller, yes, thank you. All I can think of is this is Rooney, Principal Rooney.
No kidding. No, but honestly, here's the way, if I can say something really fast, it's just what I used to train my managers on. And I'm like, okay, when you're getting back to somebody or a situation, are you responding to the scenario or are you reacting? Because if you're reacting, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be bad. I'm like, you need to take a step back and make sure you're responding and not just reacting. And I feel like those are two very different things. And obviously this person just had an emotional reaction and reacted like negatively, and then telling people bring your dog's dead body to a fucking restaurant, like, and how horrifying is that? Could you imagine going to the Olive Garden and you see somebody bringing a dead dog and the back up there? Like, what the actual fuck?
And this is in Kansas. You and I have worked in the Midwest. There is someone out there in a remote location that would do that.
Well, here's my dog, you
Here's my dog,
I mean, come on.
You dick. But I mean, you actually hit on the primary of what I'm going to extend to that took me way longer than it should have to learn in my professional career. Not only is it about react versus response, 101, and what took me way too long to figure out is you got to take the emotion out of work.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so if something has honestly hit a hot button that you have an emotional response, you've got to step away for a long time. And that's when you have to pull someone in that you can confide in, whether it's a mentor or a peer, and say, all right, this is what I'm looking at. This has become an issue. I want to address it. Will you help me compose an effective email, or whether it comes up when you check in or whatever it is? This is not something that should, at the very least, is not a same day reaction, right?
Well, and the other thing, like, I feel like if I were to give advice to this manager, I'd be like, okay, let's sit down with your team. Let's talk about these call offs. Like, why are they calling out? Is it truly like, are people just sick? Okay, maybe, maybe not. But find out, is it a scheduling issue? Is somebody like are you scheduling somebody at a time that just doesn't work? Maybe they got to pick up their kids, have conversations, or maybe there's some personality concerns. Maybe somebody is feeling disrespected. I feel like that there is got to be a root cause to all of this behavior. And maybe it is just a lack of leadership in the store. Rather than sending an email saying like, fuck you and fuck your family, why not like get to the root of it and be like, okay, like, are we having some scheduling problems? Would you be better in an afternoon shift? Or can we talk about like maybe 3 days you're in the morning and 2 days you're in the evening, and finding somebody else who can work that way? Like, I feel like and I know that it's easier said than done, but I feel like there's a way better way to respond to this than just firing off an email that was just a big fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things that can be done. As a manager, you get your management team together first, and you say, let's go over our current scheduling process and let's go over our team and their availabilities. And there's a very analytical way to look at it. And then
I would bet you $1 million that this manager probably wasn't having one-on-ones with people and was just like letting them do whatever and just not having communication. I bet you that this person was not having one-on-ones with their team, because I feel like a lot of times issues get brought up in these discussions. I bet they hadn't had one in a very long time.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to look at what is within our control. What can we address right now? What can we do to resolve this? Have we talked to like you said, we talked to our people. So we've got these people that have worked here 3-4 years, and all of a sudden they're calling off. Well, let's see if something's changed in their lives before we just assume all of a sudden they've become a bad employee. Let's work at this collectively as a team. So there's even more than we planned on putting into this. I think is an okay segue into our next article, which is pretty interesting. So Hannah, lead us into our next article.
Okay, so we found an article. It was posted on LinkedIn, but it's from the HBR, the Harvard Business Review. And it's Are You Being Quiet Fired? We all have heard out in the world about the whole quiet quitting, which, let's get real. None of this is new. I remember in my very first job out of university, before I was even in HR, I worked with somebody. It was a sales job, and this person kept basically they didn't want to work there. They'd show up to work, they wouldn't do anything, and we're just waiting to get fired. And they quit, but they kept showing up. Was the joke that we made. But I don't know if it's just this generation, but people love to put terms or come up with funny ways to describe something. Are you being quiet fired? So basically, either is the company trying to push you out, or are they preparing to let you go? And of course, there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of people had whispered Elon Musk was doing that with Twitter and with his Tesla, in that he was requiring people to come back to the office. And rather than having to lay people off and deal with the cost involved of to give people severances, he was hoping that people would leave. Again, it's all rumors, but this is very similar to that, where it's like, okay, they're changing the way that you work, they're changing the way they talk to you, and trying to get people to leave jobs actively versus having to lay them off. And we're recording this at the very end of 2022. So it's a weird market. Tech seems to be leading the pack right now when it comes to layoffs. So it's a strange job market, and I wouldn't put it past companies trying to get creative in ways to adjust their headcount. So are you being quiet fired? Nick, have you ever experienced anything like this? Are you familiar with this? What's your 2 cents on this so far?
I have seen companies that went through different stages, like where they were doing well and they realized they had over promoted people and things like that to get to where they were. And so they started the opposite. They were just handing out big ass severances. These were the people that were in here at the early stages. They served their purpose. They've made it to their talent level. We need to bring in stronger talent. Here's a nice severance package. I've seen that to a ridiculous amount before, where you're like, how much money does this company have?
No kidding. Yeah.
I've almost like tripped over the front entrance before thinking, what was that worth $100,000 in a year off? I don't know. So, I mean, I've seen it to where they just handed out huge severance packages. And then as the company changed and grew, starting to do a little bit of the quiet firing. I've never been involved from an HR perspective in it. I've never had a conversation where I've been asked to guide or be involved in any sort of this behavior or this strategy.
Yeah, same. Same. I am not personally experienced in any of this, but I've just been raving about it. And you hear stories and you wonder, they might be onto something.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have seen companies that with as one individual that they're like, this guy's or girl or whoever it is has been here a long time. We're all just waiting for them to quit. It's going to be a good day when they quit. And then you kind of maybe there's some things where you're not as responsive.
Are they just waiting, or are they creating, this is what this whole story is about, creating a kind of a hostile work environment.
I haven't seen the hostile work environment other than let's not bend over backwards to support this person that's on their way out. Again, I'm trying to be very careful. I don't ever want to be called in to give a deposition on anything, but I've been a third party aware of situations where it was time for so-and-so to go. We believe they're going to retire in the next 6 to 12 months. We're going to let them live it out that long. And then if they don't retire like they've been alluding to or even told us, then we may have to look at a different strategy. I don't know necessarily if that was tied into, hey, we just want everyone to leave happy here, or if it was, well, if we let them go at this point, maybe we're going to get sued for wrongful termination, ageism, or just general, hardcore unemployment.
Well, definitely quiet firing. I would say quiet firing, you do run the risk of a lawsuit, because when you terminate someone and give them a severance, a lot of times, it's a separation agreement. But in order to collect the severance, you're not going to sue us. Certainly, there is a risk involved, and that's why having some sort of a separation and severance is a little bit safer. A lot of times it's all about mitigating risk. And if these companies that are doing this quiet firing or as their reduction strategy, so to say, I guess it's a risk that they're willing to take, but I don't know. It's just an interesting time to watch and just to see like Twitter, what's happening with Twitter. Follow this page. It's just layoffs.fyi. And basically it just collects the daily count of tech industry, like tech and startup layoffs. So you can see which companies are laying off. And the cool thing for recruiters is a lot of times they give you lists of people who are available for work. So it is kind of a not just a, hey,
Nice.
let's revel in this like terribleness, but it's like, hey, here's a resource to help people find new jobs, because it sucks getting laid off. Like it hurts your morale. It's just psychologically it sucks. Obviously, not everybody is in a financially secure situation where they can weather it. I see it on LinkedIn all the time. Like I'm like, I have to find a job because I'm this close to living out of my car type of a situation, or losing my lease situation. So I feel like that's the one thing, the silver linings and all of this. It's like with LinkedIn, with the internet, it's like people support each other to help them find new jobs in these situations. So it's just an interesting time, my friend.
Well, and it's the reason it's an article is because things have really changed and shifted more and more. I mean, hell, 10 years ago, I thought the amount of shift created by fear of litigation was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking back, it was a drop in the bucket compared to today. It's hard to get real references anymore because people are afraid that they'll be held accountable if the person doesn't work out, or it'll be a blemish on them. And so, it's really difficult to do the right thing, I think, sometimes. I love that website you're talking about. And I remember 20 years ago, when I was probably doing a lot of my work through networking, and was really involved in a lot of groups that weren't online, where you actually went somewhere and met once a quarter or every couple of months, sometimes once a month, and networked and talked to other people in your field. I got to know a lot of other recruiters. We would actually, like, if we knew of someone like an office closing or something that we could not do anything with the people, we would like talk to other recruiters about them. Hey, I've got this great guy. I know you have this business in Tulsa. I have nothing to do for this person, and they're not relocatable. I hate to lose them. No remote options possible. I would love to have you talk to them. Can I tell them about your company and that you're going to reach out? Or, let me ask them if it's okay if I give you their information. If I can, would you be interested? And so sites that do that are great, because that's one of the things I think ultimately is one of our indirect goals, is to bring back more of an ability to do the right thing in business, help each other out, lift each other up, promote each other, do things to help each other in business. And one of them is, if we have someone that's good that we can't do anything, let's get them to someone who can, because honestly, it's like you talk about this, when you actually do a severance, you're making this agreement with this person. Ultimately, you have to do the legal piece, and you don't want them to come back and sue you, but really, isn't it about just parting ways with someone that had a mutual beneficial relationship that at this point is no longer mutually beneficial? But let's celebrate our successes, and here's our token of appreciation while you look for your next endeavor, and we'll do what we can do to help. And you can't even say we'll give you a great reference anymore without consulting your legal team.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the way I look at it too. Like, and I don't understand why companies or people in general, but why you would want to burn any bridges. Some of these behaviors that we're seeing creates a bad taste in people's mouths. Like, I feel like, and I keep using Twitter as an example because it's low-hanging fruit. It's really easy to use an example. But, Elon went in there and cut, like, I don't remember how many jobs, like half of the jobs or something. And basically people had been locked out of the system, and that's sometimes how they learned about it. And slowly but surely ruining his reputation. And of course, he might not, I don't think he always had the most shining reputation. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think people would have been like, oh, working at SpaceX, working at Tesla, so cool. Those are really like bleeding edge technology. Working for Elon would be amazing. And now I feel like, oof, I know I would want to.
Elon Musk is a great example of why you should separate yourself from all of your businesses from a branding standpoint if you're going to do more than one business. Because when people just knew Elon as Tesla, he still got away with being Elon, even when Tesla had massive missteps, like the truck when the windshield busted on the unveiling, the continuous pushbacks on when cars that were ordered were delivered. People were still excited about Tesla and willing to wait. He had built a brand, and he was just the guy that owned Tesla. It wasn't Elon Musk and one of his many offshoots, one being Tesla. He was just the owner of Tesla, unless you were a true industry insider or someone that was really following everything else he was doing. But it still wasn't his personality wasn't impacting the brand negatively. Somehow he even helped it. This quirky CEO, and he was kind of the anti-Bezos when Bezos's reputation kind of took a turn. But he was able to do things. And a perfect example, something similar to what he's doing now with Twitter. I remember about 6 years ago, I knew someone that worked at one of the Tesla plants. This was before the story broke of him doing this another time about a year or so later. But he did one of his late night emails about the hour increases. And really, you can be a great inventor and a great mind and not understand people, right? So he had what he considered a business epiphany of what they needed to get to the next step. And this was for one particular plant. This isn't the other story that went national. And he basically said, this is what it's going to take for us to produce what we need to produce to hit our goals. And so, yeah, there are going to be 13-hour days, 14-hour days. We're not making billions of dollars. We're not going to work 14-hour days. And so, they lost people, but then they got everyone to forget about it. And this is at the employee level. And they got people back and kind of calmed it down. And then it was a year or two later was when he sent off that Tesla email again, but it was company wide. And it hit everyone. But that's still, people excused him for that. But then as he became more of Elon, the celebrity, then he became too much of the face of the brand. And yeah, the guys had highs and lows. He did. I thought he was funny on Saturday Night Live. They weren't booing him then. He was just booed at the Chappelle show. So that's how much it's too much exposure.
Yeah.
It's just too much exposure. You and I have quietly talked or had little blurbs where we've talked about the gaming industry has had this type of culture for 10 years to where you do, when you're on a major campaign, work 2 weeks straight in the office, not showering for 2 days. I mean, these guys go crazy when they're launching multi-billion-dollar games, and it's been the exception to the rule. And then you got people like Elon coming in and saying, well, it doesn't always have to be the exception, which goes against everything you and I have been talking about. What needs to happen is the opposite, the 4-day work week, the 30 hours, 35 hours, whatever. It makes me nervous. It's more than just this. It makes me nervous about, are people going to forget the lessons we learned during the pandemic and expect these crazy ass work schedules that Elon had no problem saying this is what it takes for Twitter. They built bedrooms in the San Francisco office. The city of San Francisco is going against him for doing that, but it wasn't.
Yeah, he's kind of being a dick about it too. He's like, oh, talking about like crime and whatever, and he's like, but this is what's important. It's like, well, kind of, because I feel like that is pretty much mistreating your staff if you're setting those expectations of not leaving. Like, I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I feel like people don't want that. And if you treat your people like shit, they're not gonna forget that. They're gonna remember that. And I feel like all those who don't want to experience this type of abuse, they are looking for other jobs, and they're going to be able to find other jobs. And again, I know that the tech market right now is a little wacky, but the job market in general is not as dire as maybe, in every industry. So people are going to find new jobs, and they're going to be much happier when they're not being abused by their management.
Absolutely. So I went off on this long rant, and hopefully I'll edit some of that out. But the whole thing is, if you haven't already started doing this, you're really fucking late to the table. But what we should be doing is treating the people we want to hire, those candidates, those prospective team members, we want them to want to come work for us. Twitter was a destination job location until recently. So people hear these things, and we are seeing candidates that are being as selective, looking for where they want to spend their work time, because it's where you spend the majority of your day.
You know, I think it's not like it's a new thing, but I think more and more people have decided that they don't want to compromise when it comes to their lives. And that's the right thing. Like, I'm sorry, we were not born to work in corporate America. Like, that's not why all of us are on this planet. Of course, you know, we have to work to be able to pay bills and to survive. But ultimately, I really think that people's livelihoods, most for the rule, should not be tied to their work. Now, of course, I feel like there's exceptions, and you know, there's people who just live for their work and what they do. I read about a flight attendant who was in her 80s who has maybe she was even, I think she was in her late 80s, and she had no plans to retire because she's like, I love what I do. This is my purpose. But ultimately, I mean, let's get real. Not all jobs are a pleasure. So certainly that shouldn't be people's entire lives. I thought we've moved on from like treating people like shit.
Well, no, we need to keep moving, and it's worse than that. If we don't keep pushing things forward, I think this is an indicator that things could backslide. It is really important that, you know, this is where you can separate your company from other companies. Is we've heard this terminology for years, to be an employer of choice, but very few companies, I think, have ever really been willing to make the tough decisions to make that happen, to actually say, you know what, maybe instead of making 40 million this year, let's make 39 and keep all our people and keep people happy, and we'll grow that way. Maybe it'll be at a slower pace than our investors want to see, but what if it could turn into a long-term investment versus a short-term investment? And that's how we should be looking at everything we do in business, as in long-term investments. This person got me here today. Instead of kind of shutting the door on them because they're not progressing at the pace as we are, first off, we got to look at ourselves and say, did we do anything to help them get to where we want to go? Or did we hire them solely to get us to a certain point, and then we're willing to find someone to move us forward? So you've got to really create this mutually beneficial professional relationship. A lot of companies don't realize it takes the average person a full year to get completely acclimated to a new role. So
for sure.
Even the companies that are smart enough to realize that and really work hard on that first year of getting the person comfortable and acclimated, then they kind of get like, well, they're up to speed, they're good. And the second you just count on your team to perform for you, and you're not investing time and energy back into them for their development and growth, that's where a lot of this could not happen. That could stop a lot of this, this person got us to a point, put them out to pasture. Let's use as many old-timey sayings in this podcast as possible. But why not teach them to make them to where they can do other things for the company? It's just, we need to really not only coach to the individual, we need to sometimes put our people plan together, utilizing some of the individuals, not just the position they're in at this time. Is that a little too wacky and progressive? I don't know.
Oh, you're funny.
Kind of doesn't match some of the business models out there. It's like, you know, this person got us this far, next. It's not, let's work together. A lot of companies don't really know what the hell teamwork is.
Oh, that's capitalism. They make decisions for the shareholders and not for the employees, and that's the sad but true reality. They work to keep their shareholders happy, and I feel like that's a short-term plan, and that's what's I feel like caused a lot of problems in the working world. It's really interesting. You think about, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you would graduate from college or high school or whatever, you'd take a job and you'd work until retirement, and you'd get your gold watch, have your pension, and that gone are those days. It's not about being, you know, it's not about keeping the employee until retirement. Now it's all about how much money can we make, and it's sad. And I know that there's there's pitfalls or whatever to both ways, but it just sucks that the employee is the one who typically, in the current model, is the one who is paying the price, feeling the pain and not being treated well. And it's just sad. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where sometimes you really start thinking deeply about it, and it is sad and a little disappointing.
And I'm sure, and I'm writing notes while I'm talking to you and trying not to let my clicky pen hit the mic. But, you know, one of the things I was thinking of and I wrote down And to me, this is new. I'm sure someone else has come up with this. So I don't think I'm that intelligent or special to come up with be the first person to think of this. Speaking of, as I was listening to you, and we were talking about the trends in business and people practices, maybe what an entire way to start looking at people planning and development in even your hiring, instead of looking at what's, being id driven and getting that immediate gratification. We have pushed this huge focus as consumers into sustainable products. Maybe we should start looking at our people that way, as we hire them, as we develop them, as we find new roles for them, the sustainability of the team member versus just the product we're making and how it can be mutually beneficial. I feel like I should be hitting a bong off a black light with that, because I felt like that was kind of a wow moment. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe a lot of these things can be avoided if, again, we shift our practices and our processes to be a little more people centric, because I do think that there's a way to find long-term places for people, as maybe you want to change the role that person's in. Maybe you can find another role instead of just cutting them out like groups of girls would do in the 90s to their friend who has bangs.
I feel like we've said it all at this point.
Yeah, I think we've said enough. I think we've said more than enough. At the end of the day, I think we somehow still managed to bringing it back to what has been our running motto from day one. And what is that, Hannah?
Keep the human and human resources.
That's right. Or at least put back the human and human resources. Hannah Hampton.
Think about the human and human resources.
Anything to do with humanizing human resources. Hannah Hampton, always a pleasure.